Hey there, this is Zephyr. We're going to try to keep this short today. So here's what I'm going to talk about. First of all, I'm going to talk about the changes. I'm going to talk about some goals. And then I'm going to talk about some Dark Souls stuff. So last time we had Exploding Arrow at 200% source damage, which was a huge buff, double damage. I'm reducing that to 150% for the run today and the future runs here for the expected future. Source damage in Diablo 2 means any damage that would be used on your attack. So if you do have lightning damage or cold damage, it is enhanced by that or cut by that if you're using multi-shot or guided arrow in the mod, as those are 3/4 75% source damage. Attack speed bonus from dexterity has been removed, reverted. So that was added last time as kind of an experiment. I did like the attack speed bonus. It felt really clean. It does take investment, which is the goal of that. I want stats to be more valuable. And the idea of that was kind of based on a Warcraft 3 Dota agility gives attack speed and armor kind of thing. But I'm removing it for now. I'm going to continue thinking about how I want to handle the stat system. And then bows and crossbows have been rescaled back to their previous stat. They were set to 80% for the last video. And then goals for the near future. Reduce mana steal. Probably an exception for melee because melee can't multi-hit. Yeah, Zeal and stuff like that. But for the most part, melee can't really multi-hit. It's expected values. So multi-shot, guided arrow, these things can pierce. In this mod, guided arrow is adjusted to be like patch 9. It can pierce and return back to the same target. We saw exploding arrow. The explosion in my mod carries the physical damage to the explosion. It can also pierce, which means you can hit 1 target, 6 targets, 12 targets, which is a highly variant amount of mana when you're throwing that into mobs. The spell itself is very expensive, so it causes some problems. Intentionally causes some problems with your mana upkeep. But if you don't have enough mana leech to offset it, you're kind of stuck using potions. And then if you're stuck using potions, well, why not just use a potion instead of the mana leech entirely? Unless the mana leech is just somehow slapped inside of a rare ring or your weapon or something and you just got lucky. The mana leech isn't going to be something you're going to probably use if it only solves your problem halfway, because you're still just going to pop a potion. Furthermore, potion effectiveness is going to be reduced. In the mod, there's been some changes to potion effectiveness where they give a flat value plus a percentage value. And the idea is that when you get to super potions, they cap out at 50% plus a value. The flat value is halved for mana potions, which means that more mana is more effective to have for your potion usage, which is meant to help things like mages and stuff deal with that. Where everybody needs health potions more directly, not everyone needs mana potions to be, 100 or 200 instant heal kind of thing. And all potions in the mod heal over 5 seconds, which means that you can't just pop them and be safe. The intention is that they are semi-dangerous, and you have to wait them out. So I'm going to be reducing the potion effectiveness. Part of this is probably going to be related to the flat value, where some of the lesser potions are more obviously good for you. Because if you get to the super potion and it's healing for 50% and it doesn't really help heal for a lot of flat value, then the cheaper potion might actually be better. But the goal is I'm not a big fan of potions in video games. I like more non-combat potions, such as like in like Dota, where you're on a time restriction or something like that, with the opponent doing things on the map. Let me continue on through these goals, and then I'll talk about some RPG stuff. Flatter power curves intended for later acts. I would like to have some of the weapons not scale as hard. I've already kind of nerfed some armors. Most of my changes are only in normal difficulty, but bows and axes and hammers and whatnot. The idea is that it's meant to be a little bit more like Diablo 1. It's meant to be a little bit more methodical. And so I want people to be a little bit more reliant on actually using their stats and skills and itemizations, and not simply just picking up the next tier of axe or the next tier of bow. They should still be an upgrade when you find them, but they shouldn't be. You shouldn't be picking up a new bow and doubling your damage. I'll put it that way, which is sort of what happened in the last video, where I was getting stuck with an older bow that didn't have a whole lot of damage on it. Some spot checking on enemy AR and AC is necessary. So because of the attack rating changes in the formulas and stuff like that, there's just some enemies that are wrong. So we had an enemy last time that was hitting for 95%. Pretty much no enemy should be hitting for 95% with the amount of armor that my character is currently wearing. I am wearing almost entirely ethereal armors, which gives a 50% bonus. Currently, that may be changed in the future to be either lower or more consistent, to be fair. But basically, we had situations where we were hitting for 87%, the enemy was hitting for 95%, and it makes sense for the player that is almost a pure dexterity character to be hitting for 87%. I've got Penetrate as a skill. I've got, I think, 99% or 99 dexterity on the hero. Stuff like that. So I want you to depend on skills and itemizations a little bit more. I want to make items a little more interesting as well. I'm still trying to figure out how to do that with the stats that exist in the game. So that's that. And then playtest soon. Come to Discord, talk to me. I want to potentially organize a way for people to all be in one place, specifically the Discord, so that feedback can all be in one place and people can be, debating and discussing the mod itself. So if you're interested in playtesting or discussion, please come to the Discord. It's posted directly on the YouTube channel. So some side comments. I've talked about it in the past videos. It's something I really enjoy. I'm going to compare Dark Souls 1 and Diablo 1 as stat-based games where you are intended to somewhat explore and experience. And I want that RPG feeling to come back to the Diablo genre. So I know a lot of people really enjoy games like Path of Exile and Grim Dawn and Torchlight 2 and Diablo 3 and Diablo 4, right? And I've played most of those. In fact, the only one I haven't played is Diablo 4. And I have over 100 hours in every single one of those. Actually, I probably have over 200 hours in every single one of those. I love ARPGs, top-down games, Hades, Dota, Diablo, whatnot. But one of the things I'd love to see more of, and Grim Dawn does a little bit of it, and Path of Exile does a little bit of it, but I'd love to see more direct RPG feeling. So I was talking about the idea of waiting something out, or exploration, maybe. One of the best things about Dark Souls is the exploration, the intertwined world. You open up a door and you're going, oh, hey, now I know where I am. And I don't know if you could really do the Metroidvania aspect of Dark Souls 1 in an ARPG like Diablo. They're kind of both ARPGs, but they're not really the same genre. So, hack and slash ARPG versus, roll, parry, methodical combat. Both are great games, though. So I'd love to see more NPCs dying. So Grim Dawn has a character that dies or can be killed. You have the blacksmith that you can choose which blacksmith you want to bring back. You got some stuff like that, and I think that's really cool. You've got some dialogue options in Grim Dawn, and Path of Exile does it as well. The one I can most quickly remember is the one in Act 2 that always confuses me, because there's 3 different people, and you can kill all 3 people, or you can side with one of them and kill the other 2, or some different variants of that. And then you get like stat points, skill points, or some other like permanent bonus on your character, depending on who you side with, or if you side with no one. I think if you side with no one and kill all 3, you get like 2 skill points or something on your tree, which is maybe good for some builds. I don't know. That's usually what I did because I just don't know what I want in that game ever. That game confuses me a lot. Anyways, I would like to see more of those kind of things in Diablo-likes generally. I would like to see Diablo-likes more, or at least some Diablo-likes more focused on the campaign and the story and the world, and less on, personally, less on late game bosses and this rush to the end. That's just my preference, and I'm not saying that every Diablo-like needs to be that way, but I'd like to see some Diablo-likes that way. To bring it back towards maybe Diablo 1 and some of the things that can be seen there. Another example of that is maybe Fallout. Pick your poison on that. I'm not gonna get into that one because I know people have strong opinions about which one's the best of those kind of games. But the idea that when you go and do one quest, another quest locks up or disappears or changes in some fashion. Or, same thing with Dark Souls. Is it Lothric? That, you can kick off the edge of the mountain and, and he just dies. Or, if you do nothing, he kills the maiden and, whatever, the shrine keeper, excuse me. The fire keeper. Man, words are hard. Memory is bad. Anyways, I'd like to see more of that in games. Within the limits of what I can do, this mod is going to probably start shifting in that direction. Diablo 1 has a lot of negative effects on unique items. Unique items have a high chance to drop. It's something around 16% in that game from any named enemy. In the mod, it is 10% chance. There's a lot more named enemies as well. And if you get 100% magic find, it's 16.6%. So it's similar, but it's lower. There's probably twice as many, if not, 3 times as many named enemies in Diablo 2. But there probably are going to be more items with negative stats. In the past, I wasn't sure about keeping negative stats on rares, and I found I really enjoy it. It pollutes the pool, and I think that's kind of neat. I try to keep as many negatives on the suffix side as possible so that you can only get 1. It's not perfectly like that, but it is more likely that you would only get 1 just due to the stat pools. There's only like 2, I think, that can be negative on the prefix side. So if you get a rare that has 6 affixes, it's going to be 3 prefixes and 3 suffixes. That's just how it works. Pretty sure Path of Exile does the exact same thing for ratio. And so stuff like that. So those are the kinds of things that I'm going to be planning on doing, is kind of pushing towards this almost RPG feeling, this solo self-found feeling, and possibly some changes to how death works if I can. Maybe some guaranteed durability loss if you die on all your gear, which means ethereal items go bye-bye. Maybe change how gold is dropped when you die, because I don't think you should be dropping gold from your stash if you're dying, and I'm pretty sure that's how that works. So there's the stash acts as a bank. Maybe you drop some parts of your inventory because whatever, or maybe I just encourage you to play hardcore. I know I'm not currently playing hardcore, but that's kind of the ideas. The game is originally inspired by Rogue and Ultima. Diablo 1 was inspired by Rogue and Ultima, from what I understand. So in the more general case, enemies are going to be more likely to have immunities and resistance to leech. So you come up against a group of ghosts. I think they already have resistances to leech, but they might have full immunity to leech. maybe skeletons, zombies, ghosts, etc. Maybe all undead is just basically immune to leech. I want to make mana on kill and health on kill. This is a code edit that's going to have to be researched, but I'd like to make those tied into the leech effectiveness column in the monster stats. So if you're killing ghosts, you're not getting the mana per kill from them. It's still a leech effect, if you will, in that context. So you're going to have a lot more situations where you can get stuck, mana screwed, just all sorts of stuff like that. It'll be a different game. Over the course of time, this mod will feel very different from vanilla Diablo 2. It'll look the same for the most part, but it'll definitely feel different. It'll be a lot slower, more methodical, and hopefully some of the uniques and set items that you can find will feel the same, but again, kind of fit the mod better. And for similar reasons, there's no poison length reduction or cold length reduction or max resistance to fire or max resistance to poison. Those are all gone. So we have a much more constrained value for damage on enemies and the player as well. But you'll have to do more with your skill sets. You'll have to be dealing with, Mephisto might be poison immune, or the ghosts might be physical immune, or Diablo might be fire immune. Or maybe he's cold immune because he's fire related. I don't know. Stuff like that. And I don't want to do it completely with like, oh, everything in Act 4 is fire immune. I'm not going to be doing that. I want you to have different enemies be different. So I don't want everything in Act 4 in the snow caverns to be ice immune. I want some things to be, poison immune or physically resistant or whatever. Oh, and percentage physical resistance will eventually be removed from players. So health is health unless it's elemental damage, and magic damage will eventually become pure damage. So magic damage may be nerfed in some fashion, but the idea is that as you go through the game, you will not find enemies that have magic resistance unless they're intended to have magic resistance. It won't be just a flat 50% across the board, which is how it's currently balanced. If you go to hell difficulty, everything has something like 50% physical resistance and 50% magic resistance. And I don't like that. So their health will be reduced in general as you go up in the acts and up in the difficulties as well. So that's where I'm at. That's where my goals are. Didn't have a whole lot of time to work on it this weekend. And the last time I filmed was what? Friday. So this is what we saw the last time. And then I had the issue with the armor didn't work last time, and I did update the recording to actually show it off working. So let's get into it. I know you don't want to only hear me talk, right? So we did level up once last time, which was nice. We're still very under-leveled. I do now have Tal Eth as an actual armor instead of just gemmed armor. Luckily, it worked correctly, and I did fix the mana regen issue that was actually seen off camera. So the rune had been adjusted to the new structure of mana regeneration. So it said 30 mana regen over 10 seconds. So the Eth rune is now properly... I don't know if I have another Eth rune here. Yeah, there we go. The Eth rune is now properly 7 mana regen over 10 seconds. Now, if you have a skull, you're going to get 4 mana regen over 10 seconds, and you're going to get 6 if it's a perfect skull. So the Eth rune is still better than a perfect skull, but a perfect skull gives the life regen in addition to it. So I think that's one of the big things is the skull is this split value and the Eth rune is not the split value. Oh, and I cleaned up my gem stash here. So actually, I'm just going to put all these in here as well. Another idea I've been thinking about is actually making it so that I'm going to carry this in my backpack here. So here's where we're at. Just let's just, what's the right button here? Here's where we're at. We got 5 in exploding arrow, 6 in fire arrow, 1 in that. We got 3 in pierce for 40%. And that's diminishing returns in the sense that every pierce is 40%. So the first one's 40%, and then the next one's 40%, you know, dependent on that. So if it doesn't pierce, then the next one can't pierce, right? We need 1 skill point for Valkyrie. Valkyrie is going to be absolutely broken. Look at that life. Look at, you know, and the damage and the attack and the resist all, and it's not going to work out right. And same thing with, well, decoy. Look at decoy. 68 health. That actually makes sense. And it has a 10-second duration. These treads that I picked up are really crazy. But something I actually thought about, Nephrune is really fun on an Amazon, throwing stuff at things for that knockback effect. And I think it would be interesting to make it so that, because I've already done a bunch of stuff with stagger, I think it'd be interesting to see the knockback effect not cause a stagger effect. Because as is, that creates a situation where if you have knockback, you basically have this guaranteed stagger. I am moving so fast, it's crazy. There's everything is slower in this mod, so the fact that I am running this fast already feels just crazy to me. That'll be Seal of Cthon. Oops, wrong. No, it's not. Okay, so like, that's actually not a bad ring if I pulled it maybe half that level. You know, level 6 instead of level 12. The monster density in this cave currently feels actually pretty good. Some other places don't. For battle though. These do revive. I thought they did. Like, I didn't think that was delayed till later. I thought it was just the enemy type. But having knockback, not stagger, means that it is still potentially a very valuable resource for distance, but it's not guaranteed stagger. And if I ever get really good, and I mean really good, look at that. They can't hit me and I can hit them 95%. If I ever get really good at code edits, then I don't like the map overlay that much. Like, I like using it, but it also gets distracting. Anyways, if I ever get really good at code edits, I want to build a kind of Dark Souls-like stagger system, possibly a endurance system where your strength kind of adjusts your movement speed, but only because armor creates a negative value. I've already done it a little bit. I need to probably do it a little bit more, but I'd like to have gloves and boots be more meaningful in the armor totals that you've got. I think that's where I want to be. Ooh, Demon Hide. Well, if I find another towel, I've still got the F, but But I was talking about last video, like this kind of idea that wow, that was actually super disappointing. I like identifying most of the belts. They're usually trash, but it's fun. But having a situation where enemies can get staggered, but then they have kind of a, you know, a timeline where they're not as easily staggered. So if comparing this to kind of the Dark Souls-esque system, I don't know exactly how it works in Dark Souls. I do know how it works in Salt and Sanctuary, which is a 2D solo dev type adventure that was a Dark Souls-inspired game. In that game, you might have, say, an enemy with 100 poise, 100 stagger defense. Or in other times, it sometimes calls it balance in the same game. And you take that balance, and if you get hit, you subtract the value of the hit. So let's say in Diablo, which is, in my opinion, meant to be this risky, nothing's ever really truly guaranteed exactly. You know, I can't hit 100% attack rating, right? Not guaranteed. Can't guarantee the hit. Even guided arrow in the mod doesn't hit every time. It uses attack rating in this mod. It's more of a seeking arrow in the mod, but I can't see those. Sometimes those are invisible, I think. They're just like under me, so wrong. Anyways, the idea that like, yeah, I have a 5% chance to stagger, but what if it was a random amount of damage actually being applied behind the scenes? So it's a 5% chance to stagger. Maybe it's, maybe an enemy has, where do we want to be? We want to be in the ice passage, the crystalline passage. Go back to StarCraft 1 where you belong, sunken keep enemy. Let's say an enemy has, I'm just gonna call it like 5 poise. So you get staggered, and it reduces 1 poise. And so most enemies in the game, the idea at least, most enemies would have like 1 poise, just like a default value. And I'd probably just have to create like a lookup table kind of thing in this game, because there doesn't exist by default. So it would be tedious for sure. But if it's just got 1 poise, it just becomes staggered. I don't have to track anything. If it has more than 1 poise, I then need to subtract the poise, and you know, if it has, say, 5 poise, let's say Diablo, a boss, maybe he has 5 poise, right? And the idea would be, it's not every hit. Where is the crystalline passage? I gotta be careful about running around like this. These dudes charge and whatever else. But the idea is that there's a chance of stagger on every hit. That's how it is currently coded. I've custom coded it. So my arrows have a 5% chance to stagger because they're arrows. If they do 20% max health damage, there we go. That's the one we want. We went too deep is the issue. Oh my gosh, this is bad. Rejuves still are good. Oh crap button. Full rejuves don't exist, but regular rejuves still do. But say these big guys. Let's say, you know, they have 3, or Diablo has 5. That's where I was going with that. Diablo has 5 stagger. So this means that you'd have to technically stagger him 5 times. The idea behind this, you're never going to actually stagger Diablo from damage. Not really. So the idea is that, like, he is not easily staggered because he's a boss. And so you'd have to, you know, do whatever. And I'd somehow probably have to tie stagger and stun together a little bit. Is it anything interesting? Cold resist 20. 3 to all stats. Nope. Do I want to go there? One of these is it, maybe. I don't remember the order of this one. I feel like I always skipped this one. This quest. But this would mean that Diablo maybe could get staggered, but just not very often. He won't typically get staggered because he doesn't... You're not going to do enough damage to hit the 20% threshold. And then, of course, if I was able to do it good enough, I might even be able to put stagger as a new stat in the game itself on the player. So, you know, if you're wearing heavier gear, you might have, you know, 2 or 3 points of stagger defense. And so heavy armor would be potentially more oriented towards, say, not getting staggered, and lighter armor might be more oriented towards hit recovery. And if you're going heavy armor, you could get both, technically. That's Area Plateau. Man, look at these boots. Look at me go. Oh, it's got the heal stamina. That's not supposed to be there. Heal stamina plus is it's from another version of the mod where I had stamina burn away really, really quickly. It was like 2 or 3 times faster burn. So you'd run like this much distance and be out. But then if you stood still, it would regenerate over 5 seconds to full. Because stamina regenerates at a default of 10 seconds. Default rate of full in 10 seconds. Mana in the default in the base game is 120 seconds, so it'll regen to full. Okay, we want to go somewhere. We want to go this way? I don't know what I just clicked. Was that an evil urn? Probably not. That was kind of close. If he had hit me right away, I would have been done. Yeah, I think we almost came down here once, and then we died, and then we did a bunch of quests last time, or the one quest last time to make the armor we have. We've got like 55 run walk right now. I will probably be adjusting things like this rune word eventually, but it's not... I don't want to take Valkyrie, it looks too powerful. Decoy is fine, but like, look at that health value on Valkyrie. That just doesn't seem fair. I don't want to cheat. So instead... my attack rating. Let's maybe focus on some defense here. Get a chance to dodge a melee attack while standing still. Yeah, let's do that. Chipped ruby. And then I'm actually going to continue to go with vitality for the moment. My current goal is basically don't get one-shotted. Okay. If you haven't played Diablo 2, especially if you haven't played duels, and I don't really play PvP, but there's this known effect where if there is the spinny stars above your head, and this goes for enemies too, the next hit automatically staggers as long as the spinny timer is still going. So this is used in duels for like stuff like Warcry, where I think it's Warcry like causes stun and also causes a little bit of damage. And so because it causes damage, the stun, the next hit is just like perma stun. You can just like stun lock people. But the same thing with enemies. If they hit you while you have the spinny thing, you are also guaranteed to go into hit recovery. Nice. Probably could have gotten better, but nice. That shouldn't be variant damage over whatever time. That should be a flat amount of damage over 4 seconds. I am slowly getting through some of the damages, but anything that is ground fire or poison is going to be a direct flat amount of damage per second. So like this says 95 damage per second, right? Then it's just that. It's just that. It's already hard enough to know that that's actually not 95 damage per second. It's most likely 95 damage per second, but it's really something like 95 damage per second if they're standing exactly perfectly on the fire patch, and if they're not, then it does like almost no damage kind of thing. Players are 2x2. Enemies can be all sorts of different sizes. It's like Fallen are size 1, and I think Shaman are size 2. The player is size 2. These are probably size 2, which means they do like a crisscross. They look like a little X. That's the shape of the sizing thing. And then the big guys, they're 3x3. I don't know if it's an X per se, or if it's more of like an actual circle. But that means they can actually be hit by damage on the ground multiple times. That might be a like long-term stretch goal to actually change that code. That would actually be a cool or useful edit to functionally make damage over time on the ground actually work more consistently, I guess would be the best way to put that. Stagger chance still feels probably almost too high. You're more likely to be getting 20% damage on the enemy than they're getting on you, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. It's like, I'm doing 80% of their health there. Oh, I know why these armors are so high. I don't think I touched them. I don't think they've been adjusted. But I did go from this to that, so I'll call it fair. Pierce doing work here. Don't let them get behind me, though. Oh, this is bad. This is bad. Man, when enemies are faster than me and I've got 55% movement speed, that's a little scary. Okay, then. Speaking of scary. Glad I put those points into health. Don't know if it would have mattered, but... that was a lot of damage. Oh, geez, I'm getting hit by invisible lightning bolts. That's another thing about stagger. I want lightning to have like a higher chance to stagger, but I want to be careful about like lightning having these constant multi-shot type effects because then they'll always stagger constantly. I don't know. Fish in a barrel. He lived. I'm coming! There's still a bunch of dudes here. Sorry you're frozen solid. I'm sorry.
Hero. Hero.
I mean, yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Yay, 10 resist all. And I'm pretty sure that's like broken, like it doesn't actually work. I can't remember. I want to say it's like... it's supposed to give 10% resist all and does something maybe extra. But then if you leave the game, as in you save and exit, it stops working or something. I don't remember exactly. Actually, we do want to go back. I'm not super concerned about the cost of these. Maybe I should be, but I'm not. Maybe the game should require me to be, I should say. We'll keep that for now. Fire skills on a sorceress. Not amazing. All resistance 11. Dexterity 14. So you can see that most of these are pretty weak armors. So there's 100% blessed Gothic plate. There's another negative. That one's perfect. I thought they weren't supposed to be able to sell anything that costs 1, but maybe I'll have to check on that. This thing has a 69 chance to block and all resist 15. That is probably one of the best shields you can get in the game right now. Let's see, is there another negative? See, this is -1 dexterity. That should be like, you know, cost of, you know, 1. I don't want vendors to be selling negative value items, but I don't know if I can actually code that or change that personally.
Thank you. Neela.
What in the world did you give me? What does it have? Oh, poison damage and fire damage and life stolen. Okay, but how much physical damage? The physical damage is definitely less. The attack rating is good. Fire damage and poison damage and lifesteal and crossbow skills. I will try it out.
Oh, Neela Thog's home away from home.
Stuck on the geometry of the level there. Exploding poison arrow. Have I broken this ability? Yeah, kinda. I'm just gonna throw this away. I want to see what this flail looks like. Wow, that's actually a pretty good flail. Attack rating, max damage, attack speed. Stay dead. Oh yeah, that's another thing I want to talk about. Attack speed. So I talked about it because of the patch notes, right? I think that attack speed is something that is quite fun, but I think it's something that has to be done very carefully. And so I did remove it from the dexterity formula, so to say. I had it just slapped inside of critical strike here. $20 damage a second. That's not bad. I think all poison damage is supposed to be around 4 seconds now. I'll probably do a poison damage rewrite. I'll talk about that too if I can. Remember to do so. Attack speed is a fun mechanic. I'm just going to put it that way. It is fun to have better attack speed. And in the Diablo games, it's a really, really rare stat. It can only be found on gloves and weapons by roll. Gloves can roll up to 20% in vanilla, and weapons can roll up to 40% in vanilla. Uniques, of course, can have, well, unique effects. So there's helmets and armors that do have attack speed, belts and amulets that have attack speed. So one of the things I'm thinking about is potentially allowing attack speed and anything that would normally roll on gloves to roll on belts. And possibly have belts, boots, and gloves very similar in some of their abilities to roll stuff. So a belt might give you movement speed, it might give you attack speed, and so belts tie the kit together. Belts being this sort of in-between. It's not an armor, it's not an accessory, so it doesn't give armor at all in my mod. It's completely invulnerable, indestructible, things like that. So you see how I'm just like healing through all this? It's because these potions grant like almost 100% of my max health. Anyways. So this would mean that, like, picking up a belt, you could be able to find, like, resistances. You might be able to find stats, like health or mana, in this case, vitality. And the idea is that that would offset or change kind of how you build your character. One of the things I'm debating on is, should belts have, say, like mana regen or health regen, as well as, you know, health and mana themselves, because this means that belts would have one of the most polluted pools, not necessarily all negatives, but just it would be very difficult to get the right stat on a belt, which just makes them highly, highly variant. I didn't even see these guys there. As for poison, I want to do a rewrite to poison. I didn't write it in the goals, and it's not gonna be tomorrow by any means. I want to rewrite poison to be a little bit more possibly interesting. It's different for sure. I'm probably going to rewrite it to, in some fashion, mimic Salt and Sanctuary, which is going to sound really weird real quick here. So in Salt and Sanctuary, how poison works is there is a pool, and you have to hit a certain number of times for the pool to trigger. Now, I won't be adding the trigger effect. That's... It feels bad in some situations. So, first of all, I'm not going to be adding it because it'd be probably very difficult. And second of all, I'm not going to add it because I don't think it works outside of like a Dark Souls style game, where you're intentionally kind of, you know, hitting things more one-on-one, especially. But the idea would be is that there's a pool. So while I have an arrow right now, I have a bow, excuse me, not an arrow. A bow that gives poison damage, and it says 80 poison damage over 4 seconds. First of all, that's probably way too high. Like, that's just a modifier that's probably way too high. Because, you know, like, let's look at this. If I could get, you know, 3 perfect gems and do that, it might be, you know, logical, but... So 48 poison damage, I mean, if you average that out, maybe you'd get like 43 or 45 or something like that. Notice how on the bow, it's just plus 40 and plus 80 damage, but this is variant, so it's... I fixed it one place, it just didn't fix it the other place. There's a lot of places to fix things. I usually go file by file. Oh my goodness. Now, they lived a lot longer than I expected. But I would probably make it so that poison is more of this, like, 4-second pool. So you could poison something, walk away, have it die. Cool. That's a useful way of doing poison, right? And 4, just because I need to pick a number. You know, it could be 4, it could be 5, it could be 10, whatever. In Salt and Sanctuary, it's 20. But if you poison something and it's living for 20 seconds, it's probably super resistant to poison, and you probably shouldn't have poisoned it to begin with unless you're challenging yourself. Well, a locked chest had a key. That seems backwards. So probably 4 seconds. And the idea would be that, we're doing quite good damage. That shouldn't be in the pool anymore, but I haven't dealt with that yet. So the idea would be that you hit something. Say you're an assassin with venom. Speaking of assassin, hatchet hands. You're assassin with venom. And we have this expectation of how venom works as it is, where it's like 0.4 seconds or 0.2 seconds or something. Well, that was convenient. Beautiful. Actually, let's go.
Good afternoon.
Let's sell that. And while we're at it, let's sell this. Can't click on anything. Oh, Monster Shrine. Yeah, we're finally starting to level up again. I think we were so far behind in levels that we weren't getting experience because the game thought we were cheating. We were also dying a lot, but I think it was because the game thought we were cheating. Let's see here. Missiles would be good. Let's do evasion. We'll probably end up doing about 3 points in each. We can always respec later, but I'm actually generally expecting the player to have to put points into their skills in the mod. Ice spawn. What? You don't look like an ice spawn. You look like gray something spawn. I don't know. You're very gray. What is your chance to hit? And I've got like a 25% chance to avoid. Which doesn't even have an animation, because I removed it. Technically, so did Blizzard, so... Normally it plays like a faster hit recovery animation when you avoid. It's not quite the same thing, but it's similar. Evil Urn, here we go. I recognize that aura. I don't know what that aura is. Well, my boots are broken.
Salutations.
Welcome to my mod, where your stuff actually finally breaks. Yeah, I don't think I touched the ghost armor. It has way too much durability for me, who have actually adjusted it. Where this means magic damage is going to hurt more, but... I don't know where I was, but poison. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. The idea would be that you have this pool, and every time you hit something, you add to the pool. So with the assassin, instead of being like X damage over 0.2 seconds, it would just be more of an X damage. And that X damage would then be added to the pool every time you hit. Which would mean that poison on weapons would scale very well with multiple hits. So poison claws, in this case, would scale quite well because claws are relatively faster attacking weapons. I don't know if I put up a teleport to do that. Come on, where's my pierces? I guess they're just sometimes invisible. Enjoy. I don't know what happened there, but the game just crashed. That's funny. There we go. That's good stuff. Good stuff. Let's see if my game still functions here. No idea what I did to break that guy specifically. So we still leveled up. I used my skill point. We just can't kill him. Well, okay then. I think that's going to be it for right now. I'll take a break, and if I fix it, maybe I'll tack it onto the end of the final video here for this section of the gameplay. Okay, let's try this again.
I shall keep my end of the bargain.
Okay, worked that time. Okay, for now, we're going to take a break now that I've fixed everything regarding this quest. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we don't run into things like that again. So, until next time.